Let's talk a little bit about yeast, yeast rehydration, and yeast nutrients. So, in this one I am using EC1118, which can bring the alcohol percentage up to 17 to 18%. So, let's talk about why you would rather want to do yeast rehydration instead of just adding the dry yeast. First reason is in just normal yeast, you might kill off around about between 40 and 60% of your yeast. So you're going to have to add more yeast for the same results than just starting with a rehydration. Problem with this is it is not a difficult process, but if you take too long you can kill the yeast as well, because your yeast will starve. So, a couple of things you can do with that. First step is get some water up to 40 degrees, and you want to use it in a ratio of 1 to 10. So if you use 10 grams of yeast, you're going to use 100 milliliters of water. Secondly, your yeast is normally kept in a refrigerator. So you're going to have to take that out, give or take an hour before time, just so that it can get to room temperature. If it doesn't get to room temperature, it's still frozen and it might never work. So, what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to get a batch of yeast going. Okay, let's just move that out of the way. This is my container I am using right now. And with the reason why I'm using, unfortunately, such a big container is just so that I can show you the yeast growth. So, this water, it is a little bit cold today, so you will see a lot of steam. On that. Okay, so I've added my water. So now it's not a clear bucket, so you won't be able to see it, unfortunately. Then I'm just going to add about 5 grams, which is 1 spoon. Just a little bit more actually. 5 grams of this yeast. Okay, just a full spoon, doesn't have to overflow, into your water. So I'm just going to show you there and stir it lightly. You'll start seeing it's a nice creamy color. Okay. The reason you would want to rehydrate your yeast is, as I said, you will lose about between 40 and 60% of your yeast in a normal setup. Where with this, the yeast starts growing, it doubles, triples in the volume of yeast, so you use less yeast to get the same results. One of the reasons you would do this as well is yeast does need nutrients to grow. This is why I said you can't leave it in for too long, because it will starve as there is not enough nutrients in just water alone. So what I'm doing is 5 grams of sugar, as well as 5 grams of yeast nutrients. I normally do it in a 1-to-1 ratio. And then we just mix that thoroughly as well. Problem is, especially with something like a sugar wash or something that doesn't have a lot of nutrients in, your yeast will die off as well. So it is a good idea to start getting your yeast ready and have the proper nutrients to feed all of the yeast in there. to have an optimal growth rate. So I'm just going to let that sit aside, and then I'll show you the growth in a moment. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes now. I wanted to show you the growth of the yeast. Just look at that. So what I'm going to do now, sorry, it wasn't 5 minutes, it's been 10 minutes now. I'm just going to give this a stir with the foamy parts on top, just to get everything mixed in well. And then we're going to leave it for another 5 to 10 minutes. So as you can see already how much it has grown. So if you think about the 5 grams of yeast that I had in the beginning, like 1 spoon, and it's grown to, I don't even know how much this is, a lot. So now we mix it through. Set it to the side again, and I'll see you when it's done. Okay, so as you can see, it has grown considerably. I mean, it's almost to the top of this bucket, if you see right there. So my yeast has grown from the 5 grams that I've had to a lot. I don't even know how big this bucket is. It's anywhere in between a 500 and a 1 liter bucket. So if you look at this, how much yeast has grown in this. This is why you want to do a yeast rehydration. So from that little bit of yeast, we've got a lot now to whatever projects you have. that you need your yeast for. So the reason why I added the nutrients as well as the sugar in the beginning is I have left this now for 10 minutes. I stirred it, and then on the second one I left it for 15 minutes. And if you do forget about it, if you don't add the sugar or the nutrients, it will die. But the sugar and nutrients will also help it grow faster. So this is why I added those in the beginning instead of some of your mash or wash that you are going to use. So you can either make a sugar wash or a rum or beer or whatever you decide to make with. This is the reason why you should always rehydrate. So anything below 100 liters, you don't need rehydration, but it is still a good idea to do your rehydration, as on that scale, anything below 100 liters as well, is you can still get a lot more yeast faster, and that will reduce your waiting time on your mash. So normally it's between 7 and 10 days, but by growing it first, you've got more yeast to begin with, so it can do its job faster. I hope this was informative and that you liked it. Stay tuned for more.